What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. Today, talking about the New York Giants offensive line. Man, this is a topic I feel like every single year we get ourselves excited. We're like, it's got to be better this year. It can't get any worse. Somehow it gets worse. But this year, I really believe it. I really don't think it's going to get worse. In fact, I think it's going to get a lot better up front for the New York Giants. And we're going to go ahead and dive into this offensive line in this episode today, just discussing some of these upgrades that the Giants made. I was kind of diving into it on Twitter recently, having some interactions with some fans. And we were discussing how when you look at this offensive line on paper, I mean, the upgrades, you can't even quantify them. It's so much better versus what the Giants had on the Week 1 field last year with Mark Glowinski and Ben Bredesen starting at guard. Compare that to Jon Runyan and Greg Van Roten, and you have to feel a lot better about this unit going into the regular season. Plus, you've got Michael Schmitz entering his second season. You hope he takes a leap. Andrew Thomas back, fully healthy. No more Evan Neal liability at right tackle. You've got stability with Jermaine Eluemunor. This offensive line on paper, it does look like it's going to be a pretty decent unit. Plus, all of that coupled with the fact that the Giants now have a much better offensive line coach. According to all statistics and measures from his career, Carmen Brasillo has been one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL since he started coaching. So, a lot of excitement to be generated around this Giants offensive line, and we just want to kind of dive into it, project what this unit's going to look like throughout the course of the year, maybe even go through some of the worst case scenarios. What if this player gets hurt or that player gets hurt? How do we feel about the depth on this offensive line? Because that's what I think really separates this unit, Alex, and I know we'll dive into this a little bit further. The depth feels a lot better this year than it did in years past. Like last year when they ran into those injuries, hey, Justin Pugh, I know you've been sitting on the couch for 6 months. Can you suit up and play Monday Night Football for us? We don't got to do that anymore. Like the Giants have some decent backups now, even developmental pieces. I just wrote an article about Jake Kubas. What a preseason this undrafted rookie out of North Dakota State just had for the Giants. So everything's looking up for the Giants offensive line. I'm excited about it, ready to go ahead, dive in and discuss it, and just preview what the season could look like for the Giants up front. Alex, how are you doing today? How are you feeling about this offensive line? Are you excited about it? Any cause for concern? What are you thinking about this Giants offensive line entering Week 1?
Well, as I've been saying for a very, very long time with this offensive line, I need to see it. But on paper, yes, it does look substantially better. And before I dive into this offensive line, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, BetUS. This upcoming week, really this week, Thursday, we have a big game against the Baltimore Ravens and Kansas City Chiefs. I'm excited for it, and BetUS has a really good line here, over 20.5 points for the Baltimore Ravens against the Chiefs. I know the Chiefs have a good defense, but Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, in my eyes, at minus 115, there is simply no way that they're not scoring 21.5 points in Week 1. I think that those two offenses are going to score a ton of points. Really, really good odds there. Make sure to go and use their 125% match up to your first 2 deposits, $2,000. They're going to match you up to. So really, really good opportunity there. You can hit the promo code in our description and, of course, in the comment section, in the pinned comment. As always, love this one. I'm even going to throw a little 10 spot on it. We've already made a couple bets, and hopefully all will come to fruition this week. But back to this offensive line. I really do think that right now when you're looking at the Giants at multiple positions, right tackle specifically, Jermaine Eluemunor is my dog. That guy wants to be here. And you know what, Anthony? We want players who want to be with the New York Football Giants. We want guys who have pride playing for the New York Football Giants. This is not a one-stop shop for us. This is not this should be a one-stop shop. It shouldn't be a place where players come to get another contract, to go to a different team, to get paid elsewhere. People that play for the Giants should want to play their best, and I think we saw that from a lot of guys. Xavier McKinney was one of those guys. Of course, he ended up going to the Packers. Saquon was one of those guys before going to the Eagles, getting his bag. And I think the Giants do have some of those core players that do want to be here. But Jermaine Eluemunor is our best option at right tackle, and it's not even close. Evan Neal so far from being a guy that I even visualize as a starter right now. But Eluemunor gave up 26 pressures and 6 sacks last season. Anthony, between weeks 3 and 4, he gave up 11 of those sacks. And 5 of those sacks and 11 of those pressures. He went 13 games after that without giving up a sack. It was impressive, right? He had 2 bad weeks, and the rest of his season was borderline, well above average. It was well above average for the most part. So, those 2 weeks definitely dragged his numbers down as a collective. But if you look at it in terms of sample size, those following 13 weeks were straight up just tremendous from him. He is going to change the outlook of this offensive line. He's going to help give Daniel Jones more time in the pocket. It was just confirmed that Brian Daboll is going to be calling plays this season. Expect more explosiveness, expect more aggressiveness, and for that to work, the Giants need better pass protection. So I'll let you get your take on Jermaine Eluemunor, he's been our guy for months now. This is nothing new. You guys know we've loved him for a long time. People starting to finally come around and understand that he is a very solid player and already comes with chemistry with Carmen Bracillo and, of course, Greg Van Roten.
Yeah, I mean, we've been Jermaine Eluemunor fans since before Jermaine Eluemunor was even a New York Giant, like well before he signed with the team. We were talking about him earlier this offseason, saying that's the guy that the Giants should sign. The familiarity is there, the stability is there. He's got the versatility as well. He can play right tackle, or if Evan Neal were to have performed really well this summer, he even could have went in there at right guard. Obviously, Neal didn't live up to the hype in the training camp period, so we're getting Eluemunor at right tackle, and we feel really good about that because, like I said, it just brings stability to an offensive line. Replacing a liability with stability, you can't even overstate how important that is for a team. Like, it is huge to just have 5 average starters on the offensive line. That's really all you need in the NFL. And the Giants have a few average starters plus an all-pro level talent in Andrew Thomas. They can feel really good going into this year with Jermaine Eluemunor, especially considering the familiarity that he has with Carmen Bracillo, as you mentioned, Alex. And one thing that you did point out there that I was actually pretty excited to hear you say was he only had a couple bad performances, and then look at the rest of the season that he strung together, and it was really solid. You know who else that reminds me of, Alex? John Runyan Jr., the Giants' big-time signing in free agency, signed him to a $10 million AAV contract. This is a player who had some performances last year at right guard that weren't all that great. But if you take a look at his stats at left guard, Alex, and this is something that you did immediately after they signed him, at left guard, his statistics significantly better. In fact, really top-notch pass-protecting stats from the left guard alignment for John Runyan Jr. throughout his career. So, not only are we getting a guy in Jermaine Eluemunor who, had a couple bad games, but really stabilized and became an above-average player throughout last season, but if you look at the career of John Runyan Jr., he's had his struggles on the football field. But a lot of those struggles, the majority of them have come at right guard. Where do the Giants have him in the lineup in week 1? They don't have him at right guard. They have him at left guard, where he has excelled throughout his NFL career. So, Alex, not just Eluemunor being a big-ticket signing for the Giants this offseason. I mean, if you're going by price tag, pretty low-ticket signing. But if you go by price tag for John Runyan, big ticket, $10 million per year, a lot of expectations for that guy. They really need him to stabilize the interior of this offensive line. Why are you confident in John Runyan Jr. as he enters his first season with the Giants?
Look, I think that when you're looking at John Runyan at guard, you said I posted a whole bunch of statistics and whatnot about John Runyan. He is significantly better at left guard than right guard. He was with the Green Bay Packers, and because of Elton Jenkins and changing his position up, they ended up moving Runyan to right guard, where it was not his traditional spot. And, now the Giants identified this and said, well, we're seeing all these guys, Kevin Dotson and all the other guards that got $17, $18 million per season, and said, well, we actually might be able to get a pretty similar asset because he was playing out of position at 3 years, $30 million. So what other guys were paying $17 million for, we got for $10 million. I'll give Joe Schoen one piece of credit there. He made a very good decision getting John Runyan. And after I did some more deep diving and really looking at the numbers there, I realized this was a really good move. That not just a good one, but this was one of the underrated free agent signings that I think anyone made this offseason. Last season he played, and by the way, he's played 3 straight years with over 1,000 snaps, so we should be very happy about that availability at the very least. So definitely noteworthy there. But John Runyan played 1,006 snaps at right guard last year. He gave up 22 pressures and 2 sacks. So I think already, even if he was playing right guard, substantial improvement over what we've had in the past. Now, if you reflect back on his 2021 season when he was playing mostly left guard, I'll give you the stats right now. He allowed 21 pressures and 2 sacks. So, marginal difference, but for the most part, his pass protecting is well above average. He's never been known to be like an elite run blocker by any means, but this Giants offense is going in the direction of passing. So they're going to be passing the ball a lot more. It's going to be Neighbors. It's going to be Slayton. It's going to be Wandale. Of course, Hyatt and Theo Johnson. You have Devin Singletary. You have some of these guys, and I still think that it'll be solid. It'll be fine, right? But John Runyan is a very, very good pass-protecting offensive left guard. So, Anthony, when you're looking at that, This is kind of an interesting situation because Andrew Thomas hasn't had a consistent left guard next to him in a very long time. I don't think ever, actually. He's never had a guy that's been like, that's my left guard. Like, that's the guy I see every day, every single week. That's the guy I'm playing next to. Every week, Andrew Thomas has been surviving on an island and helping compensate at a position that's been turned over 40 times. How important do you think it is for Andrew Thomas, who could put together, in my opinion, his best season yet because he has competency right next to him at left guard? I think that's an underrated narrative to consider.
No, it's absolutely a great point to bring up because the Giants have dealt with revolving doors at the guard spots over the last several years. I mean, Alex, do you remember when they handed big money to Patrick Omameh of all people? Like, we've come a long way to get to stability at the guard spots for the New York Giants offensive line, but I do feel good. And, preface all this, like you said at the beginning, we got to see it in action before we can truly believe it. Seeing it on paper is one thing. I just can't wait for next week to be here, or really this week, Sunday football, to be here so we can actually see it on the football field finally. But when you're looking at this interior of the offensive line, career-wise, Runyan Jr. has been very stable, very available, as you mentioned, and that is a first for Andrew Thomas. He's never had that at left guard. Last year, he was dealing with a combination of Justin Pugh and Ben Bredeson. He's played with Ben Bredeson a lot. Ben Bredeson is truly at best a career backup, a high-level backup. So getting a truly starting caliber player alongside Andrew Thomas on the left side of the line could be transformative for this team. It could do a lot, not only in pass protection, but even in the running game. Open up some of these gaps on the left side. We know that Andrew Thomas is one of the best run-blocking left tackles in the NFL. That 2022 season, that's his best to date. He was an absolute weapon in the Giants offense. They were using him on all these pulling, running plays to the left side of the line with whether it was Saquon going to the left side or if it was Daniel Jones on a keeper going to the left side. The Giants got really clever with their usage of Andrew Thomas as a true weapon in the run blocking game. But now imagine they have that plus a pulling guard there in Jon Runyan who can get to the next level and make some plays in his own way. The Giants offensive line, again, real upgrade there with Runyan Jr. So I'm very excited about him. But Alex, I do think maybe the most crucial player on this offensive line going into the season, move one over from left guard to center. Michael Schmitz needs to have a big year too. Let's just put it boldly, let's bluntly rather, let's call a spade a spade. He was not good last year as a rookie. Whether you're bringing injuries into the equation or not, when he was on the field, he wasn't good. Now, there are many factors at play. One of them being something that you just mentioned, revolving doors at those guard spots. That severely affects a rookie center taking on that role as a rookie is not easy. Taking on that role as a rookie while having a new guy playing on each of your shoulders every single week makes it all that much more challenging. Couple that with the injuries, couple that with the poor coaching from Bobby Johnson, the bad play calling, all of it. It was an absolute dumpster fire mess that Michael Schmitz was thrown into. So I don't blame him. But even still, he does need to find a way himself to be better this year. He's got all of these now factors going for him, more stability at guard, better coaching in Carmen Brasillo. He's just got to be better. He was labeled this pro-ready, instant impact starter coming out of the draft last year. He struggled immensely as a rookie. Didn't look good as a run blocker even. He had a couple moments, but really struggled as a pass protecting center. Now this year, I think the key to this offensive line will be Michael Schmitz staying healthy and taking that step forward, because there's a lot that a center does on a play-by-play basis, whether he's calling some pass protection signals or communicating with the quarterback behind him and discussing who he sees in the defensive backfield that might be blitzing, whatever. There is a lot of responsibility on the shoulder of the center. For Michael Schmitz to become a really great player, he needs to take on that responsibility and handle it well and stay healthy. None of those things. He's not going to get better with the pass protection. He's not going to get better with his communication with Daniel Jones. He's not going to get more chemistry with those guards on his shoulders if he doesn't stay healthy. And I keep bringing up the health here for JMS because he had that shoulder injury last year. It sidelined him for several games. This summer in training camp, also had a shoulder injury. Then in the preseason, gets rolled up on, tweaks his ankle. It's whether you want to say those are fluky incidents or not, or if he's injury prone, I don't think you can go that far just yet, but staying healthy is the key here for JMS. I imagine you agree with me, Alex. What are your thoughts on JMS going into his second season? What are the ways that he can really prove himself to be a truly quality starting center, and how important do you think he is to the success of this team?
He's essential to the success of this team. The backup options are, Schlotterman and Stinney, and, they don't really have that many good options at backup center. And, looking at what John Michael Schmitz means to this team, well, he represents a high IQ football player. He passed every, test with flying colors. I know it was Bobby Johnson doing the testing, but, I do think that coming out of Minnesota, JMS was one of the best rated centers in the draft class. What I think about JMS is he had the same exact path that Evan Neal did. It was just injuries, incompetence, bad coaching. Like he fell victim to that. And fortunately for JMS, he only had to go through 1 year of it. It wasn't 2. There's still a very good chance for him to turn things around. But again, it really just relies on him staying healthy. That shoulder injury, obviously getting rolled up on, it seems like he's okay because Brian Daboll did say that everyone is practicing. Even Micah McFadden and Adoree Jackson will be there in some degree. So JMS should be fine. And so will John Runyan for week 1 this upcoming weekend. But, with that in mind, it really comes down to consistency around him as well. It's not just about staying healthy. It's also about not having an offensive guard change every single week. Last week it was Bredesen, or it was Ezedu, or it was this guy, or it was that guy, or it was Pugh. He didn't even know the guy's last name who was starting him next to him every week. It was McKethan, who's no longer on this team anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we were just rotating anyone that had 2 legs and 2 arms in there. And even then, sometimes I feel like some of them didn't have limbs. They were operating as if they were limbless and immobile. So when it comes to JMS, the health is the most important thing. But he has John Runyan and Greg Van Roten next to him now. It's a whole different ball game. Those 2 guys are very experienced. They will operate better. They are healthier traditionally, knock on wood. So I am expecting major improvements from John Michael Schmitz as long as he is available. That is first and foremost. But this offensive line, as you've mentioned multiple times, on paper, is significantly better on paper. But we need to see it. We've seen flashes of it during, the first preseason game. We didn't even have JMS during that one or John Runyan, and we looked significantly better against the Lions. So I was definitely optimistic about that. I do feel as though this team right now is, in a much better place. There's a reason that Brian Daboll is taking play calls. There's a reason all these things are happening. But at the end of the day, when you look at this Giants team, it really just boils down to Daniel Jones. Can he make the throws? What can he do with this time? You give him all the time in the world, but he's got to actually maximize it. So that's the next step in the progression here. Daniel Jones getting time like he's never seen before, making the throws, making the right decisions, not hesitating, being decisive. It's kind of a new situation for DJ, who has been under pressure a lot over the last couple of years. Now he's going to be like, hopefully he doesn't have that happy feet situation that Eli did late in his career. Like he gets the time, he's patient, he makes the right decisions, and obviously is more efficient with the football in his hands. I think that's going to be something we watch very, very closely as the season does progress here. But all in all, I do think this offensive line is going to be significantly better. Greg Van Roten, while I do view him more as like a better backup than a starter, he is much better than Justin Pugh. He is much better than Marcus McKethan. He is much better than anything the Giants had last season, or Jalen Mayfield, whoever the hell, starting at right guard. So I'm very, very happy that we got him. Very, very cheap. The Giants spent, I think, collectively maybe $20 million per season on 3 new starters in the offensive line. And if they end up becoming slightly above average or even average, that'll be one of the best free agencies we've had in a long time. $20 million just off 3 starting positions. I don't think people understand just how valuable that will end up looking if it does pan out. But right now I do see a lot of upside. Now we got to put it on the football field. Now we got to see the actual production here.
No doubt. We got to see it. And I mean, listen, like I said, it's always great to look at this on paper and get excited, but we got to see this team perform well, right? We need to see this offensive line be better. And I mean, for what it's worth, 85 sacks last year. They're going to be better than that, regardless. There's no way that they can replicate that again. If they do, oh my God, we are in for a long year. But this Giants offense should be a lot better, especially because of the offensive line protecting better in front of them. And even one other thing, Alex, sometimes an offensive line can benefit from having a superstar wide receiver, right? Like having Malik Nabers out there. Obviously, Nabers is going to benefit from the offensive line pass protecting, so he has more time to get open, and he has the ability to get downfield and make big plays. But the offensive line will also benefit because of the fact that Nabers might be getting open so quickly that they don't have to protect for as long anymore. It doesn't take as long for the receivers to get open, so they don't have to pass protect for as long. Neighbors is going to help the offensive line. The offensive line is going to help Neighbors. So I know we always talk about Neighbors being this X factor who's going to transform this Giants offense. That's just one other way. Like, he will help the offensive line in many ways, the same way that we think he's going to help Daniel Jones in a plethora of ways. Now, Alex, before we wrap, though, I know we just talked about the starting five of the offensive line, previewed a lot of them. We didn't talk too much about Greg Van Roten. For Greg Van Roten, we're expecting like average football. Like, I think we're both in agreement for that, and that's fine. That's all we need, because again,
Love
with those guards that we've
dude.
had the past few years,
Love it.
well below average. So Greg
Give
Van
me
Roten,
average.
yeah, give me average football, and I will love you for it. But I do want to get your take, though. Can Evan Neal do anything to save himself here? Because he's going to be the sixth offensive lineman on this team. Say there's an injury at left tackle, right tackle. I assume he plugs in. Maybe not left tackle. I think they like Azidu to plug in at left tackle. But if Eluemunor goes down, whatever. Or if they're putting a sixth offensive lineman on the field as a swing tackle in those heavy running plays, whatever it is, that's going to be Evan Neal. Can he do enough in those little spurts of playing time that he gets to give you some confidence? Or is he really just, in my opinion, falling into becoming an afterthought this season?
Right now, he's an afterthought to me. Jake Kubas, who you just wrote an article about, you said that before, is a better option than Evan Neal right now. Why? Well, he hasn't put together two horrible seasons. He's not coming off a major ankle injury and surgery. He didn't just get hurt in his most recent preseason. He didn't just give up a sack in 20 steps. You know what I mean? Like, Kubas looked better. And that's, end of the day, like, look, I get he's a first-round pick. But I'm so tired of handing out starting jobs. I'm so tired of handing out reps to guys just because they were a selection of this pick or that pick. Let the best man win. If a UDFA is outperforming your former 7th overall pick, you got to let that guy compete. You got to let that guy win, because at the end of the day, we're looking to win football games here. You know what I mean? Not hand out snaps because this guy was a former first-round pick. Look, if you get a good solid starting player in a UDFA, but your first-round pick busts, they offset. Nobody cares, right? If your UDFA ends up becoming a really solid right tackle or right guard or whatever, and the guy that you spent, Evan Neal, let's say, for example, ends up busting and you don't actually get any value from him, it's a wash, right? It's a wash. Anthony, stop it. It's a wash. But, end of the day, I do think that there is a lot to say about letting guys compete. Let Kubas compete. Let him try to win some snaps there over Evan Neal, because right now Evan Neal has to earn his way back into this equation. He should not just be given the reps because he's coming off injury. They want to see what he has. He's got to prove it in practice first. You know what I mean? That's kind of my take at this point in time.
No, I agree with you, and I think, it ties into the conversation that I was just saying with John Michael Schmitz. Staying healthy is crucial for him, and I'm saying that for Schmitz because I don't want to see his career wind up the same way as Evan Neal's, right? Like, I don't want John Michael Schmitz to get banged up so much in the first 2 seasons of his career that he doesn't get enough reps and doesn't develop. Because honestly, a lot of what Evan Neal's problems were over the past 2 years are the fact that he didn't play football. A lot of fans say that in our comment sections, Alex. They say, well, Neal's only played 20 games. You got to give him more time. And I'm like, well, the fact that he's only played 20 games is part of the problem. He can't stay on the field. How can you rely on him? How can you develop him if he's not playing NFL football? And so that's one of my fears with John Michael Schmitz, and why I'm saying health is the biggest factor for him. Because even if John Michael Schmitz doesn't play that well this year, Alex, but he plays 17 games, you can feel like he's probably making progress, getting the reps, and going to be better going into year 3. But if he has a second season similar to Evan Neal, where he plays in 7 or 10 games, then you can't feel that confident going into year 3 of John Michael Schmitz that he's going to develop into a great player. So that's what I'm hoping for JMS. He avoids injuries, he just stays healthy, and just plays 17 games. We didn't get that for Evan Neal, and unfortunately that's been probably the biggest factor holding him back from developing into a quality talent. Injuries just keep nagging, and sometimes they just really hold you back. Like, he had the MCL problem, he's had so many ankle problems. The ankle has bothered him his entire NFL career so far. So if Evan Neal can finally get healthy, put out some decent snaps, maybe eventually he develops into something. But again, he just has to be healthy. He has to play. And I'm actually going to wrap that up on one last point here, Alex. The number one player that the Giants need to remain healthy this season is Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is maybe the team's most important player. When you break down the offensive line, the problems that they've had for a decade now, and the fact that he's the only one that's actually been able to stabilize that unit at any point in the last decade, right? And you consider the fact that without him on the lineup, Daniel Jones gets hurt. Like, that's the simple fact of the matter. The quarterback gets injured when Andrew Thomas is not in the lineup. Like, he needs to stay healthy. And Andrew Thomas has been banged up at several times in his career. He had the ankle injury his rookie season. He recovered from that eventually. He had the hamstring last year, which I don't blame him for at all. I mean, I don't ever blame any of these players for getting injured. They're just banged up freak incidents, and it's part of the game. It's football. But for Andrew Thomas, his health really could make or break this offense. He's got to be healthy this season. Alex, how do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on the importance of Andrew Thomas, our franchise blindside protector, left tackle, staying healthy this season?
I mean, we all know how important Andrew Thomas is. It goes unsaid. And to be quite honest with you, if he goes down like he did in Week 1 last year, our season's over. Like, there's a couple guys that could ruin and make a season. Andrew Thomas is one of those guys because nobody can replace him. You're asking Jermaine Eluemunor to go play left tackle, basically, and that's not a position he has a lot of experience doing. So he can do it, but he's not going to do it like Andrew Thomas. And then you're going to have to call up whoever at right tackle, whether it be Kubasa or whether it be a guy like Evan Neal. So I think Andrew Thomas is the linchpin of that unit. He is the guy that solidifies things. He's the guy that beats down the best pass rushers in the game. He's the guy that stands his ground, protects the blind side. He's everything you want. Like, he's everything you want in a left tackle. There's a reason the Giants gave him so much money. End of the day, like, they have to make sure that he stays healthy. And how do you do that? You don't make dumb mistakes. You don't have you have discipline. You don't miss kicks. You don't ask your left tackle to be chasing down defensive backs on a missed kick, right? Like, this is just basic stuff. You know what I mean? Like, mistakes breed injury. Lack of discipline breeds injury. The Giants need to be more disciplined. They need to get rid of these mistakes, and they will get healthier. They will stay healthier because of it. I guarantee it. So I think that's kind of first and foremost. Just mistakes, take a trend in the right direction in terms of fewer mistakes. You're going to see our health be a lot better in the long term as well.
Totally agreed. And also, I think if you want to talk about those mistakes, it's a mistake to put Andrew Thomas out there on the field goal unit. Same way it would be a mistake if they once again trotted Dory Jackson back out there on punts, since Brian Dable said that's a possibility. Let's not do that again. Let's not put Andrew Thomas on the field goal unit, please. Find somebody else. Put Jake Kubas out there. Put Evan Neal out there, for frick's sake. I don't care. Just keep Andrew Thomas healthy. Don't put him in positions where he could get injured, chasing down a blocked kick, right? Something like that. So it's going to be very important for him to stay healthy. I think that is the most important variable in the Giants offense this year. Honestly, it probably really is the health of Andrew Thomas. So we'll see how that goes. Obviously, like I said, a few days away here now. We're going to see this offensive line finally take the field on Sunday. We're going to be watching Thursday night football in just a couple days, seeing the Chiefs and the Ravens, seeing if Alex hits on that bet. And if any of you are tailing him, if you hit along with him, that's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be great to see all the different bets that we conjure up here throughout the season, and also obviously really excited for New York Giants football for the next 17 weeks, baby. Can't wait, and hopefully longer. Hopefully 17 weeks and then some. That's what we're hoping for. Hell yes, but only going that far if the offensive line takes us that far. But that pretty much wraps this up here on Fireside Giants, powered by BetUS. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.